Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So, on here for first spring day and getting ready to plant. I think they said they're doing maintenance this coming weekend. So, that should mean that Proceed is going to finally go away. We've been waiting for that to happen. As you've noticed, I have to kind of turn it off each time because I don't use it, and I'm assuming most people don't, hence the reason they are removing it. So I've gone ahead, I've decided I'm going to go ahead with canola this year. Just to do something a little different, and frankly, because it works out decently with the calendar. Basically, the first harvest day would coincide with the day that I'm not working, and that way, given my time crunches lately, I'm going to be in better shape to be able to take care of it. So, not topping off the equipment as usual. Let me make sure I'm all the way out. I am. So, a lot of fertilizer is needed. It's just going to be a question of whether this field's going to suck it all up or not. I'll tell you, it's almost pouring out like water the way it looks right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to need to go get something. On the seed, I'm hopeful that maybe I'll be in good shape, but I may not be. But in any event, whatever it is, I mean, at this point, it's just doing 35 seeds per square meter, as you can see on the variable seed rate, but you can see it's 170 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, which is just about as insane as I think I've ever seen it. I forget, let me turn on the crop sensor. That'll change things a little bit more as well. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but either way. Oh, we got one little piece that didn't work when I turned around. Well, maybe it'll help, because look at that. It went to 155, 160, so I like that. Any little bit that can save just means less. Whoops. Trying to switch to cruise, and it didn't work. As always, let me set my line. I always, well, I don't always, but I tend to forget, and then I get to the end, and then I am fumbling around at that point. But the field's going from orange, which you can see is pretty much on the left of that bar, up to green. So canola needs a lot, but most of the crops, the grain and so forth, are similar. So I don't think that's significantly different. You know, we'll see what the consumption turns into later. Now we're up to 175, so over here it's pretty high, but again, you know, now we're down to 90, so pretty nice. Alright, we'll just zip around the harvester here, ring around the harvester. That should work. So keep that in mind. If I get this space for my yard to kind of leave this open, that would be a nice thing to be able to maneuver. Alright, let's see. So we're too far over, not surprising. It's pretty rare that I don't have to adjust a little bit when I'm ready to get going. But per the typical working sequence, I run these two bottom passes. I then go up the side, and then I run a pass along the top, then come down the opposite side, in essence finishing my headland run to some degree, because on the other side I just need about half of the planter to go along. But yeah, the canola has a shorter planting window. It's just today and tomorrow, but it also has a shorter harvest window. It's just 2 days instead of 3 days, but it's moved up a month. So instead of having to wait to September for the harvest window to open up, that it could be ready as early as August, and I'm assuming if I plant today it will be, because I think this is one of those that I think it's 4 days or so, so canola's pretty quick. So that's another benefit of the crop, is I can kind of get it in, get it out. You know, my biggest challenge is going to be I need to be able to weed, but I think I'll have time tomorrow to at least come in and do that. That doesn't take terribly long with the equipment I've got, given that I've got that really big see and spray unit, so that should be great. If I remember correctly, I think I just filled it up with herbicide during the last go round, so I shouldn't have any issue there of even having to spend any time heading out and doing that. Alright, so we'll get this headland going now that we've turned around, and it's less needed here, but usually at the end over there we get pretty close to the trees, and so having it a little bit of lag. Yeah. Can I save it without having to stop? I think I did. So, but yeah, usually once I get through this little opening here, that copse of trees, I'll call it a copse. It probably isn't a copse. I think a copse is like a standalone cluster in the middle of a open space, and I don't know that I'd say that's really that. I think, in theory, those trees just grow up the hill. It's just to save trees on the map and so forth. I think the map creator didn't put them all there. So I certainly understand what they're doing, but we got even less than half of a width here that it needs, so usually it doesn't slow down the fertilizer too much, but it should slow down the seed for sure. But we're up to kind of midpoint here where we're doing 52 seeds now instead of 35, so we definitely have some field differences. But the nice thing is with the crop sensor, we're sensing more nitrogen in the soil than we were without it, so that actually helps us. But the crop sensor that I have is the passive one that's mounted on top. It's that little white, one of those little white boxes. I forget which one. I think it's the front one, so I think the middle one is the GPS, but and that needs daylight to work, so but that's my goal, is to work in the daylight. Server is, for the most part, synced up, so I went ahead and had that taken care of. Made sure that before I did it, my cows were good, my slurry was good. It only consumed, I think I had to move it 4 or 5 hours, because I didn't actually sync it last time, like I talked about in the episode. Surprise, surprise, once again, didn't get the time to do what I thought I was going to do at a certain point. So, alright, I think I'll just turn around and just continue from here and move on over. So, a little bit of a challenge here, even with the heavy-duty tractor. You can see this, trying to get this to spin on a dime, or a really, really big dime at least, is a bit of a challenge. Problem is, if I straighten it out, I can go faster, but then I create a different problem. So hopefully we'll be good here. There we go. Nice thing is, right now it doesn't look like, oh, now it's changed. I'm like, it doesn't look like it needs much fertilizer, but now it's flying out again. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need fertilizer. I may need both. I mean, I'll probably fill both up when I go down, because it just doesn't make sense to make that trip. You know, it'd be one thing if I had stuff here on the farm, but just trying to keep track for the financial tracker, it's a little bit challenging doing that, but it's alright, I can do it. It's just less than ideal. I'd like to run both empty, but that pretty much never happens. So when I had things here, what I would do is, or here, when I ran the farm in Shellbrook, say, where I had a way to fill it directly, I would just wait and then run the auger over. I suppose I could do that. I could throw some seeds or something in the auger. That would help. Because I've certainly verified I'm not using the auger for anything else. It's just, I think, sitting there. I think I still have it. I'm trying to remember if I sold it off. It's a good question. We will answer it once I turn around and go down the next pass. I'm going to look at what I own, and we'll see. 'Cause now I'm not sure. So again, it's been a while since I've had normal farm operations, and I'm still not there. So, all right, turn it on. All right, auger wagons. We do have it. So, and I can do seed and fertilizer, and I think it does like 70,000. So, but you know, I'd have to pick one is kind of the problem, and that's less than ideal in some cases. But yeah, we've gone from like 3,200 liters, I think, of fertilizer down to 2,600 in one or two passes here. So definitely going to be something I'm going to have to go get. I've got some hope, though, that the seed might hold out, so maybe I won't touch the seed. We'll see. You know, if it's still like above 1,000 and I've got, say, only half the field left to go, I just don't know that I'm even going to get that far, because like I said, this fertilizer is going. So we're getting a little closer on the server, or the FSN revamp stuff. So I think we're getting kind of a key milestone done this holiday weekend that's coming up, and that will then hopefully get them set to start introducing auctions and stuff like that back in, so we can hit that crucial point of land acquisition, and I can focus on what I want. The other FM who's working here can focus on what they want, and more importantly, I think it's also going to help with people who might want to move in. I mean, I think they've had move-ins in total on hold right now as they do the revamp, so nobody's being moved in on any servers. I just don't know, you know, hopefully we've got some people looking around, because I think Hobo's Hollow here, there may be one other server that has this map other than us, so unlike other maps where there's a lot of servers available, you know, hopefully we'll get some interest here and get some folks heading over. And certainly with the field plowing, once we get the auctions going again, you know, I've kind of been told I really need to be issuing contracts there, and some of the idea that FSN leadership has is that gets people on the server exploring it, kind of like why we did like doing them ourselves, was it just gives us an idea to look around the server. But that way it's someone who's not here and who may then in the future take an interest of making this their home, so it gets us more exposure. So it is a bit of an interesting challenge, or you know, dynamic. It's not really a challenge. It's not as if I'm super actively trying or really worried about it, because all of us unfortunately seem to play at different times in a lot of cases, and so kind of joint work together where we're helping each other out isn't that easy to come by. But keeping the server full, you know, we were full for a long time. I would say for 10-20 game years. We had the full contingent that filled up the server of 6 farmers at that point. I think with 22 we can have 7, but in 19 and stuff we definitely had kind of a lively bunch. They've spread out, they've gone to different maps and so forth, and we'll just see if we can attract anybody here, but I'm pretty happy with how this is going. I like the operation. It's not too challenging, but it's a little, you know, challenging enough with the terrain, and definitely enjoy the views on the map as I work things and so forth. So I'll enjoy them more if I get to put things in that space over there that I want to make the yard, but I don't own that land yet. So the work today is really just this. I'm just going to go ahead and plant. Obviously, I'm going to need to go get more fertilizer. I mean, I'm down to 1,200 now, but I don't think I'm going to need any seeds, so I don't think I'm going to worry about anything with the auger or anything right now. I'm going to hold out some hope that since something significant's happening this weekend, that we'll shortly get an announcement after that that gives us a little bit of view into when we might see land sales coming back. The challenge obviously is there's a lot of parcels of land on Hobo's Hollow. So even with that, I mean, it took a long time, as we saw, for 24 to finally become available for me. So there's no guarantee that just because things get turned on that I won't be waiting another 6 months for that to appear. But at least we'll know that something is happening, and we'll have a little bit different results going on. Oh, interesting, the target here is reached, but I wonder why, but not sure that I'm going to get that each time. I mean, it says target reached, but it's using fertilizer, so I'm not sure. But just trying to think if there's anything else I can chat about with you guys. I suppose I can just shut up for a few minutes as I think on that, and just let you guys enjoy harvesting. I haven't really done that in a long time. Just kind of kept a video going because I kind of feel like I should kind of honor the tradition of what I've done here on the Misty Hill series before, which is show you the work. You know, I've kind of always taken the stance of I'm doing the work anyway. Recording it and offering it doesn't really matter, especially if I am just kind of leaving the raw footage, which I'm able to do with something like this, because if I'm not doing things in between, I don't have, I'm not popping off and on and having to edit chunks out or delete them or anything like that. So, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably just keep it on, and I'll try to chat here and there, because I'm sure I'll come up with something in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to kind of shut myself up, and we'll just let it go, and those who want to watch can watch, and those who want to skip ahead can do so. I'm sure I'll have a chapter thing about, hey, the end is coming up or something, but we'll go from there. Alright, so time to go get the fertilizer. I should be fine on the seeds, so I'm going to hold off on that. But you can see at this point that the planters continue without the fertilizer. There were some planters in the past that when you ran out of fertilizer, it would just stop working. So that is something you do have to pay attention to, so I'm going to have to kind of go over one part there, because it would stop planting as well when you ran out of fertilizer. I'm not sure if I have some setting or something that could be adjusted, or, you know, again, if that's a server setting that is different. I vaguely recall in FS22, like when we were in Shellbrook, that that's how this equipment worked. But obviously that's not what I'm getting now. So that just creates a little bit of a dynamic, and it's, I think, certainly easier to see in the daytime. So glad that I have the opportunity to get this planting done there. So not terribly far to get to where we need for supplies, but it is a good way. And then we'll get this done. The thing I'm wrestling with in my head is, I don't think it will let me put fertilizer in where I have seed. Like, I just don't know that I'm going to be able to tell which bin the seed is in. But it would logically make sense that the large bin at the back would be the fertilizer, and then the two other bins are seeds. I think that is how it works, but I don't know for certain. So I guess we'll figure that out when we get there. But yeah, moving at 25 miles per hour, it takes a little bit of time to get here, that's for sure. Hope that guy stays off the road, otherwise he might have an unpleasant surprise. I'm just glad, yes, we don't have to worry about pedestrians and things like that, of really like running someone over. That would be an added challenge that wouldn't be terribly fun. Alright, so let's see. Oops, and then gotta go back there. No, what am I? Is it there we go. I'm like, which key is it? I thought it was the key I was pressing, and clearly it was not. Alright, so I think like that's going to the seed. So I think that's seed, seed, and then now that I think is fertilizer. So hopefully I'm right. So we'll go and run this underneath here. Always a little bit of a challenge because this doesn't quite fit underneath. And then you want to position things appropriately, and the fill point is not normally that large. Alright, so we'll get that filled. Obviously it's filling where I'm pointing, so that would obviously make sense. And it takes a bit of time here. It almost seems like those wheels are slightly moving, but I'm not sure that they really are. Alright, and then we'll do that. That'll now fold everything up so I can easily move down the road. And so, yeah, that's where it's just a little nicer if I had a way to fill it on the farm. More importantly, if I had a way to fill it, then I could go and just like dump it back. So that's why I had been using the auger wagon before. That's why I have it, to top off my supplies as needed in the field, so that I didn't have to keep running back to the barnyard. But the fact that I can't eliminate one, you know, that's always the challenge. I mean, I think fertilizer gets used at a faster rate. Alright. So, gotta get back to the farm. So, I will see you there. Alright, so we're back here. and going ahead and resuming. So gotten that fertilizer done where it was, and now continuing on here. And I should, at this point, I would be very surprised if I can't finish this field with what I've got. I'll be disappointed certainly if I get to the end and run out of seeds somehow, but I only had like 4,000 seeds, I think, to begin with, 4,000 liters, so given that I've only used 1,300, and we're, for the most part, I would say we're probably halfway, because this end of the field is a little bit longer. Like, I'd be done if I was all the way at the far end there, and I've got a good hunk here, and obviously I've already planted that higher, longer piece. So that all works out well. So yeah, I guess the other thing I can that I noticed was just amazed how many weeds we got. You know, it's not like I'm not spraying. It's almost like they're getting worse each time, which might mean they're going to get worse each time I spray, which doesn't make a lot of sense because they are being eliminated. But it's just fascinating that then, like, we plow them under, we plant, and then we get kind of a segment so that the See and Spray doesn't have to do it. Now again, we've gotten like giant islands of them. I'm assuming that's going to continue. I really don't know how the weeds work. If there's kind of a weed map or something that at least forms a basis. I mean, I guess I would think there's some sort of randomness involved, but you know, it's possible that the map author kind of puts a weed map down, so you can see we're hitting the field number going by on our little mini map there, which technically, so the next pass will be passing over that. The field number tends to be relatively centrally located on most fields. So, you know, you could make the argument like we're not halfway done yet, but once again, this is the bigger end of the field, so there's more going on here than on the other end. Sometimes I wonder if the current nitrogen really matters, or if it's just for show, because like it was 5 kilograms for a moment, and I don't know that the fill rate was doing anything, or the consumption rate was doing anything different. So it's just intriguing how that works, but yeah, I just don't know what will happen with the weeds, but I don't know that I remember there being this many. I mean, because at this point, if I'm thinking correctly, this is going to be my 4th crop. I did wheat, then I did barley, then I did soy, and I don't know that I remember. And maybe it's just like soy creates a lot of weeds. I don't know. You know, so we'll see if I recall and can kind of remember this, but we'll see if it drops down later on, now that we've planted something else. And so between this year and next year, if it'll change. But yeah, so the other potential gotcha that could give me a little bit of a fit here, as part of this revamp, they're working on the calendars on the website, on the FSN website, and I've got a tracker, which I've mentioned before, that I just have a spreadsheet that basically takes the real life date and then gives me the FSN date into the future. So I've got, I mean, I could do as much as I want, but I usually have like a couple years out set so that I know, and that way as I plan vacations and things that I have control over, like if I want to work around the calendar, I can, or vice versa. Usually it's more typical that I just want to understand, hey, this has come up and I'm going to be unavailable to work during this time. What time is it going to be on the server, what season, and so forth, so that I can determine, like for example, when I took the vacation, hey, I'm not going to plant because the harvest is going to fall, and then I unfortunately won't be able to plant the following year in that case because I was gone for 8 days, so it was a good portion of the year. So I didn't plant in the fall before or the spring, and then that basically meant I skipped the harvest, even though I was back for the harvest cycle, because there was no way to do it without the crop withering on the field. And so right now the website for some reason is showing that it's April, but my tracker tells me it should be March of year 117, and that was kind of where it was on the server. So the server seems to be running accordingly, where they normally fall back a bit. It's not like I've not been syncing forever, which is what it would take for it to drift a full day and lose, kind of fall a full day behind. So I'm trying to get some clarity on that, but I know that some of the things are placeholders, but it was just the place where it's showing April now had an error icon there. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just kind of a box instead of an image, because basically it wasn't getting a good feed. But now suddenly the image is back, but the time with it is off by a month. So I'm just trying to clarify that they're not somehow artificially moving us a month, based on maybe syncing up with the other server types or something and trying to play something with the calendars. But if they do that, the problem ends up being then this is technically April, and then my thought of I'll be back just in time to be here for the first day of harvest suddenly would be wrong, and I'd still have a harvest day, but I would just have the one day, and if that day again has bad weather, I'm kind of stuck. So I'm hoping that we're sticking with the calendar the way we had it, and that it's just off a little bit because of they're still working on things in the revamp, but I do not know that. But that is another worry that I've got. But we're getting close here, and this will give you an idea at least of kind of what it takes to get this field done. Because I haven't, I think, done a episode where I've done the full planting. I think I've always just said, hey, I'll let you go and we'll join back up at the end. But this will give you a view where I'm really not doing anything extraordinary as far as lengthy breaks or anything. As with anything, as I'm doing this, sometimes stuff comes up. I have to do something for a minute or two, so there may be some cuts here and there that you may have seen, or that you will see, depending on what happens over the next, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes is what I'm thinking it's going to take me to finish the rest of this field. But it might be shorter, might be longer. I really don't know. I mean, what I do know is this is kind of one of the largest implements I can use to get this job done, and I have it, and obviously I'm going to use it. And I think there's not really any other options to do it any faster that I'm aware of, especially given that obviously I'm doing both the planting and the fertilizing together, so that it just creates a situation where I've just got 2 times I need to touch the field before I harvest, versus substantially more outside of precision farming. So again, just a super benefit of making the game a little bit more playable, incorporating the precision farming capability, because it eliminates multiple fertilization cycles and allows you to combine things a little cleaner, and therefore means it's less overall work time through a given year. Okay, what just happened there? That is interesting. It didn't fully redraw. We got, I don't know how I missed a little bit there. I don't know that it's worth worrying about. got that like little lone weed and a tiny little segment of field that appears to not be planted, but if that would give me a liter of canola, I'd be surprised, so I'm not really that worried about it. So I'm thinking 4, maybe 5 rows still before we're done. Might be closer to 5 because I'm thinking -1 might have been where the first row was. I wasn't paying attention when we took off there. But the implement's pretty wide, so it usually goes pretty fast. I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago that we were talking about getting ready to run over 24 there. And you can see now 24's on the edge of my mini map, and once I move over one more row, we're not going to see it next time we come down the field. But yeah, I'd say it looks like maybe 3 more rows that are left there, so maybe that was -2 in the first row I did along the edge of the field there. But yeah, we should be fine. We're down 1,800 liters of seed, but not that much left to go, so we'll see. We might get below 1,000, but might just squeak by before we do that. So these turnarounds are always interesting, just trying to get this whole thing to straighten out, because you can see it gets most of the way there, and then it's kind of got that last little pivot, so you can see the field indented one more time, and that's always kind of the trick. You want to avoid 2 of those indents, because then the second one will be ignored next time. It's going to be too far out. It can handle 1 as kind of a bit of an overlap, so that it gives a bit of coverage and a margin for error, but 2 of those it does not. But yeah, I'm a lot more comfortable now that it's just 2 more passes as I look at the mini map and the size of how it's painting in what I'm doing now. You'll see up there we got 1 little tab that is sticking out. Like, that should work, but I didn't think I had anything more than that over where that little piece is hanging out, so maybe it's a bit random if it makes it or catches it or not. I don't know. Never really seen that it is, but it's just weird that that one's there, because I think I've been pretty consistent. Because usually I go a little bit further from the line, and then that helps it rotate faster, because we've kind of pulled the pivot point over. See, but it's still not straight. We've gone in 1. Again, we go in again. That would be bad, but it doesn't look like we are. And now it's visually a lot clearer that we just got to go up and back, and then we'll be done. And we're absolutely not going to run out of seed now. I'm 100% confident with that, but we might get the fertilizer down to 50%. That's crazy. That is just a lot of fert, but once again, soybeans really don't take any. They don't put anything back into the soil or anything like that, so it has a long way to go. But, you know, we saved fertilizer last time. I think we spent like $400 or something on it, where this time it'll be thousands of dollars of fertilizer that have gone into this field. But the yield should be more prolific, even though the price of canola is not up there with soybeans typically. Yeah, maybe we won't be, because we only went from 67% to now it just turned to 64%. So at most we probably have 4% or so of the fertilizer being used on each pass, so it's not too bad. Alright, lining up, turning it on, and there we go. Now we've got a nice, pretty planted field without stubble and garbage growing around it. So always a nice thing. Alright, So it just popped off for a moment, so there was a jump there. So while I let things go, I did, I grabbed a thumbnail shot and got that set up, so I'm all set there. But this is now it. So we are set here. Just let ourselves fold up. And we made it with plenty of seed to spare. Now, I don't think I'll be able to plant the field again without it, so probably the logical thing to do, but it's going to come down to, like it always does, a time thing. I may jump on and be like, oh, I barely have time, but obviously if I run out, I'm still going to have to go down there, so logically it doesn't make sense, but sometimes the way I play Farming Simulator isn't logical. Even though it should be with my data focus as the mature simmer and all of that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Alright, so we're all set. Just doing a quick check of everything else. We've got a little bit of room for milk, but I've got to probably get on that pretty soon. We are full. We were full on the silage, but we've gone from 50,000 liters of slurry to 34,000. Again, I've got cheese I can move. So, yeah, I think we're in good shape there. So, maybe I sell some milk and some cheese next time we're together. Kind of let that be the job. And lastly, if I hop back here, still almost 100,000 liters of everything. Silage is getting a little bit lower, but I talked about doing that at one point, so perhaps topping up the silage, moving the milk, selling the cheese. That sounds like a good next step next time we're here. So I will go ahead and do that probably, unless of course I don't get to things and then plans have to change. But right now, if I was to be a betting man and say what I'm going to do next, that would be it. But for now, hope you've enjoyed this. Traveled to Misty Hills and seeing where I'm at here in spring of 117, and I will see you next time.